Most people talk about leadership like it's theory. I've lived it in the mud, the chaos, and the moments nobody writes about. This show is the truth, raw, unfiltered, and built for leaders who actually give a damn. If you're ready to grow, ready to own your own story, and ready to lead from the front, you're in the right place. Speak up, show up, lead. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Speak Up, Show Up, Lead Leadership Live Edition here with Chris. And today we're going to talk about a pretty fun topic. Before we get started, don't forget to check out my two books, my newest release, plus this is my favorite. This is my bread and butter right here. Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. This is my story. And then Resilience is Built, Not Born. Those are both on Amazon.com. And I've gotten a lot of really good feedback, so check them out. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, JJ. How are you?
You know, it's finally starting to stay warm instead of going back and forth between this warm, cold stuff. So I'm hoping that it stays that way.
Man, you and me both. I'm still wearing my hoodie. I was already outside and did my morning get out and get after it a little bit, and it was only like 50 degrees, and it was a little chilly. And I got right in here to the studio, and it's like, all right, I'm still a little chilly.
Oh man, well, I'm excited because today we're going to talk about something that I think is overlooked a little bit and sometimes is a little bit difficult, especially for young leaders. But you know what? A lot of people who have been doing it for a long time, if they haven't received the proper guidance and mentorship, they also struggle with this. But we titled this episode, Know When to Get in the Weeds and When to Stand Back. And well, you know what? I've been talking here this whole time. I'll let you go ahead. And so what's your opinion on that, Chris?
Yeah. We talk a lot about leaders providing guidance, providing, the North Star for their team and where everyone wants to go, rallying the team around a certain goal and being able to kind of step back, evaluate what's going on, and give direction and basically allow some decentralized decision making to happen down on the front lines and in the field. But there are times that we as leaders have to roll up our sleeves and get down to the front lines with our people. And sometimes our people might feel like it's micromanaging them. Sometimes it actually is micromanaging them because the outcomes that you're looking for aren't happening. No matter how many times you have described it, tried to coach through it, sometimes you just have to show how it gets done to demonstrate what you're expecting. And it's something that's, you know what? On one hand, it's like not the glitz and the glamour, quote unquote, of leadership. But at the same time, it does help to build relationships with your people. When you're kind of arm in arm with somebody and you're getting down and dirty, showing someone how to do what they're supposed to be doing, that teaching part of things is really a valuable piece of leadership that I think a lot of folks overlook. And a lot of people don't like to be micromanagers. I'm one of them. Like, I hate micromanaging people. And it's probably because I hate being micromanaged, or, I did when I was younger. So it definitely has like a negative connotation, but sometimes it's required. And we just have to do what's required, as a part of our job, as a part of leading people.
You're right. It's a big deal to make sure you're empowering people to do what they got to do and allow them the space to get it done, but also report when things are going good, things are going bad, and all that other stuff. But sometimes you're right. It just starts spinning out of control. And
Mhm.
as leaders, it's good to stand back and allow people to do what they got to do. But once in a while, you just have to step in. And, it's a really, really uncomfortable for the people that you work for when you start digging in a little bit, but it's a leader's responsibility to trust but verify. And sometimes it's it, when you dig in, it's not because you don't think your people are competent, but they're things can spin out and get to the point where you're like, there's something that they're missing, and we've been talking about this for a while, and whether they're getting it or not, they're still missing something. And that's why that's why whatever role that you step into as a manager, it's important that you know something about what's going on, or the type of work that you're working with, because when you step in, it needs to be productive.
Yep.
And working alongside of those people, though it may be, it's probably going to piss them off at first, actually, but
Yeah.
when it's all said and done, and you did step in and you got involved and you rubbed your funk all over everything that they got going on, but then you step back away after things get right again. Well, maybe not perfect, but nothing's ever perfect. You know, that's actually going to build more trust. But as leaders, we need to be able to identify that. We need to be that middle ground to say, yes, this is yours, but I'm
Mhm.
going to step in when I have to,
Yep.
if I have to. So this is a
Yeah.
great conversation. It's not, and this is probably one of the most uncomfortable things a leader can possibly do when you've been, especially if you've been just letting your team run with an idea for a long time.
Yeah, and so you said, trust but verify. We've talked about that before. And it's also up to the leader to inspect what they expect.
Yeah.
So if you're getting to the point where you need to micromanage, there's a good chance that you weren't inspecting all of the things. So part of that falls back on you. And that's where you've got to take ownership of the situation and say, you know what? Maybe I wasn't asking the right questions. Maybe I wasn't looking at the right metrics. Maybe I wasn't clear enough in my direction of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So that's the other thing that I also want to emphasize, that as much as it sucks to have to get into the weeds and start micromanaging, you've got to take that as a learning opportunity as a leader and say, what led us here in the first place? And how much of that is on me? How much of that is on the person that I now need to micromanage, and learn from it? So we've got to look at all of these things that we don't like to do in our job and say, where can I learn from that so that I don't have to come do this again?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, often an overlooked part of when leaders, and I used to hear it all the time when I was coaching leaders, and I would say, you need to get in on this. You need to go roll up your sleeves and get down on the shop floor or whatever. And they would just get pissy about it. And then, we would debrief and I would say, what did you learn? What do you mean? What did I learn? I learned that Joe Snuffy isn't pulling his weight. No, no, no. That's surface level. Let's get down to the root cause here. What did you learn and why is he not pulling his weight? How's it changed? Because if you don't understand the root level, you're not going to come up with the lasting change that's going to keep you from getting down in those weeds again.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and we got to make sure that we point out that likely when you step in because things are going wrong, this is not a trust thing. It's not because you don't trust the people to do what they got to do, but likely as a leader of at whatever level you are in the organization that you're working with, whether you're an owner, a director, maybe a manager, of a supervisor in his team, or whatever the case may be, you're not. It's not that you don't trust these people. We got to point that out. This is not a
Mhm.
trust issue. If you don't trust your people, likely you need some mentorship from above.
Yep.
But that because that's something you got to work on. Empowerment is extremely important, but usually it's not a trust thing. It's there's something going on, and it needs a closer look. And I'm in this position because I have the experience, and it's part of teamwork. You jump in when people are struggling. Sometimes people get to the point where they're drowning, and your job as their leader is to reach an arm down and pick them back up. And sometimes that means walking the shop floor with them, standing side by side, and taking a deeper look at every single part of the operation to try to figure out what's going on. This, again, and it's important to have that conversation with the person that you're working with, with whatever's going wrong that you're helping try to fix, because it's not that you don't trust them. It's that you don't trust that everything has been looked at. And that's not that they're doing anything wrong. It's just not everybody can see everything all the time. So that is an important part to keep in mind when we're talking about all of this, because that person, if they start feeling off put, they're right. It's not normal for a manager to be in the weeds all the time. And it is a little bit offensive when it first starts. But you got to have that candid conversation, because you need to let them know, I'm only going to be here as long as I have to be. I don't want to be in your business. I don't want to dig in and put my funk all over everything, but I have to be here. It's part of my job, because guess what? If this part of the mission fails and we have to start, firing or whatever the case may be, you got to make sure it's for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And it's important. It's part of your job.
It absolutely is. And the way that you deliver that message is also really important. It needs to be direct, but it can't be like, hey, Joe Snuffy, I don't want to be here, but because you're such a screw up, I need to be here. And meanwhile, I got other work to do, and I'm going to have to work late tonight. So thank you. And now let's get to work.
You're ate the hell up. No, don't do that.
Yeah. So it definitely has to come from a place of like, look, man, there's a shared goal here that for some reason we're not reaching. And the best way for me to get my arms around this thing is to be down on the shop floor with you, to understand what's going on, to see where the disconnect is, and for us to come up with a plan of how to connect that disconnect.
Yes.
So it's got to be from a place of teamwork.
Well, and so the important part of that as well is that you do not want to be involved that deeply for very long, because likely if you're at that level, then you probably have other managers to worry about. So
Right.
So a leader's job is not to be in the weeds any more than you have to. I mean, even if your team is, the execution level people, and you don't have any other leaders working with you, you still have to be able to step back, take a look at everything to be able to figure out what's going well, what's not going well, what to sustain, what to improve. I mean, your job is to monitor everything. Obviously, you step in just to say hello, what's going on, how can I help, and all that other stuff every once in a while. But if you're not far back from the situation and viewing the overall sight picture of everything that's going on, then you're going to miss the key things. I mean, if you're only if say you have that, if you're on that execution, you only have the forklift driver and the dock, the guy that's checking things in and out at the dock, and the person that, you only have the execution level people that are not in a position where they have other people working for them. Well, if you're focusing on that forklift driver, but you're not seeing everything else that's going on, you're not receiving that correspondence from your boss, you're not talking to your other people that are working at the same level as you, but that have other teams, then you're going to miss something. So
Yeah.
it's important to keep in mind, and part of this process as well, that you get in there only as long as you have to, because your job is to step back and observe the landscape and make sure everything is still going right, not just with one person or one of your teams, with all of your teams or all of that team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you're leading multiple teams or multiple managers, or even just a team of people, and you're that frontline manager, you do need to be more kind of up and out versus down and in. Um, and it just you can't. Here's what I'm afraid of, that people think like, all right, I just need to come in here, solve a problem, and get out. They're like tunnel vision. So they're acting with the exit in mind already. Like, all right, I just need to get in the weeds, fix it so that I can get back out of the weeds. What that prevents is being open minded when you do get into the weeds, because you're going to go into a situation that is failing and you're being forced to roll up your sleeves, and you've got this preconceived notion of this is how I'm going to fix it. That may not be the right fix.
No.
You may get down into the weeds, and so you're bringing an outside perspective to the front line because you're normally not there, but you think this is how it needs to go, and you get down there and you're just trying to ram this square peg into a round hole. And next thing you do, you're just asking for bigger hammers. Like, all right, Joe, just go get me a bigger hammer. We're going to get this thing done. Versus if you have more of an open mind about, it's not about me getting out of here as fast as I can, but it's about me helping to solve this problem as fast as I can. That's where you go down. You can get into the weeds and then still zoom out a little bit. Like, have you ever seen those videos where every time on your phone you expand it and it just, the picture is like more and more, right? You click on like a little car that's in a picture and you zoom out on it, and now you're seeing the car that's on a road, and it's like the layers are infinite. So you can still get deep. You can be on the ground floor and still be zooming out a little bit. And all right, where are we going here? What are the next steps? This is also where you build deeper relationships with your people, where you say, all right, look, what have you tried so far? And you're the expert here. You're the dude who works this forklift every single day. So in order to achieve X, do you have any suggestions here? Like maybe something that it seems outside the box. Like, let's put our thinking caps on and let's come up with a solution based on your expertise. And if it works, you've got my blessing. We SOP it and you're ready to rock and roll. So, I mean, you have to, it's just about looking at the silver linings of it. And it's the approach. I think everyone in the world has seen the video at least half a dozen times, the Jocko Good video. Like, oh, something's not going well. Good.
Yeah.
How do we come up with a different approach on how to fix it? Have that mindset.
Yeah. So you're right. And usually there's a phased approach. Yeah. You do have to get back to your normal operations. That's true. But part of your normal operations is checking on your people anyway. And so I think if you get to the point where you have to dig into the weeds, and you brought up a good point that I did not say, that's why we talk about this together instead of just pigeonholing one person's ideas. But this is good, because when you do that, likely once you figure out what's going on, you discuss what a sustained improvement plan would look like, and then you can continuously check to make sure that they don't need support. You might dig in there and see how things are going for an hour each day or something like that. You don't step completely out, because if you do that, then it could likely just go right back to where it was, because that idea that you guys came up with to fix whatever is wrong or whatever the case may be might not work. I believe in AARing everything, what's going right, what's going wrong, what to sustain, what to improve. You do that every single time, I do it when things are going right too, because I think things can always get better. But when things are going wrong and you're setting things up for improvement, once you figure out what to sustain and what to improve, you got to figure out how to make that work within the operation and how you can support them while they're making those changes, because likely if you're making some changes in an operation, it's not just going to affect one person, it's not going to affect two people, it's probably going to affect the whole team. So as those changes occur, there could be some resistance from the rest of the people you're working with, and you just got to make sure that that manager and the rest of the team know that that manager has support from you, because usually that I have found in some of my past workings that ground level manager or that ground level supervisor likely gets forgotten.
Yeah.
They'll make sure the bosses tend to make sure he's doing what he's supposed to do. They don't dig into the weeds. They just counsel, and then fire. But the right way to approach it is what we're talking about here. Once in a while, you dig in, you help them figure out what's going on. I mean, yeah, not everybody can stay in that management position if it's not working out for them. But that's not what we're talking about right here. We're talking about how you phase this in and out. It's when to get in the weeds and when to stand back and look into the landscape. And so if you forget that manager, if those ground level employees or whatever team they're working with doesn't think that they have the support from the higher ups, they're just going to think that that person's being a pain in the ass, and they're less likely to do all the change, implement all the changes that are happening. They'll wait till that manager walks away, and then they'll be like, he's just trying to put more work on us, guys. Let's just get back to work. Let's make sure we're just doing the stuff that we're normally. That happens. That really does happen.
100%.
Yes, it does. So
yeah,
when you're doing this, you got to make sure you continuously support that person, which you should be doing anyway. But especially when there's change, you got to make sure that there's support for whatever team or whatever manager you're working with.
At the end of the day, there's a bit of mental jujitsu that has to happen, where you've got to, when you walk away from that situation, the person that you were down there helping on the front lines in the weeds to get something done, they have to feel as though the solution was their idea.
Yeah.
They have to have buy-in on what has changed, how things are going to happen going forward. And the way to get that buy-in is to kind of almost not feed them the lines of like, all right, this is what we're doing, and it's your plan. Hey, JJ, this is your plan here. But that's part of the coaching, right? It's part of the leadership of just uncovering things, getting to the root cause. Sometimes when you get down into the weeds, you've got to involve an entire team that's on the front lines.
Yeah.
And that's when you pull everyone together and say, all right, folks, this is what's going on. Like, let me share the reality of the situation with you. This is why I'm down here with everybody. But our goal is for you guys to get me out of your way so that you can accomplish your goal. How are we going to do this, everybody? And I'm not saying that you turn it into, a giant democracy, for lack of a better word, but all right, let everyone have input. Maybe the new guy, the brand new FNG is like, have you guys ever thought about doing it this way? And all the old heads are like, no, but that just might work. All right, let's go. But having that buy-in as a result of allowing them to problem solve, maybe you just have to work them through solving the problem, and then they come up with the solution. And you're like, thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me get back to, getting out of your way and go get after it.
Yeah. You definitely have to involve the people. I mean, people aren't going to execute if there's no with them involved. And, that's what's in it for me.
Yep.
And so when you help the team understand what is in it for them, and likely that's having conversations with them and getting them involved in that planning process. Some jobs you can have pull everybody aside and have a meeting. Some jobs you can't. Sometimes you just have to walk around to each individual person and have conversations, and then once you come up with a plan based off of all that data and information that you get from all those people, you can walk around and let each person know individually. If the team works in a way where they're virtual, maybe send everybody an email, whatever the case may be, to let them know what that final outcome was and what the
Yep.
phase plan is to implement that stuff. But if you don't involve them, all I can say is I wish you luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you just cram it down their throat, there is going to be a lot more resistance than you could probably imagine. And just consider it like this: if you have kids, and Chris, I know you do and I do, but we all get caught in this trap as a parent, where a kid will, they'll do something you don't like, and you'll say, no, you're going to go do this. Well, why do I have to do that? Because I said so. How often does that actually work out for you?
Very rarely.
Especially as they get older and older and older. For whatever reason, we still do it anyway. But
Yep.
I mean, it's just one of those things where if you apply that to a professional environment, it just doesn't work. If it doesn't work in your house, it's certainly not going to work there. So you got to make sure you get them involved. You don't just cram things down their throat. If they understand why things are happening, and that's really what the main goal is here. If they understand why things are happening, then when changes come about, and you're done digging into the weeds, and that execution plan is in, and you're at the support level where you're giving that team or whatever the case a little bit more attention, but likely you're back giving other teams attention a lot more than you were when you were digging in, then it's going to happen. And you got to get them involved. If you're not getting the people involved in the operation you're making a plan for, you're shooting yourself in the foot anyway, because you don't know what the hell's going on every day over there. You just kind of understand what the numbers look like, and you understand what the overall operation looks like and how to get the stuff done. That doesn't mean you understand what's going on.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack here, and this is the first episode of a new series for us.
It is.
This series, we've kind of titled it like Battlefield Management, and it is about being closer to the operations, from a leadership standpoint. It's getting down into the weeds. It's, how do you coach your people up to solve root cause issues, to, get things moving. So today is just the first episode of this new series. We've kind of settled into a 4-episode cadence for each series.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to the rest, because this is the first time that I think we're getting down to the ground level in our conversations. We've always kept kind of the leadership stuff up here. We've done some like touch and goes, but we're going to spend a little time in the field, for lack of a better word.
Back to the basics, baby.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. No, and I think this is an important place to start, and we can work our way back up, or we can talk about top and bottom as we go along. But I think this is an important thing for people to understand, because I think when you take that role as a manager, you don't necessarily understand how to solve that stuff for your team all the time. But then you also don't understand what your boss's mindset is when they're trying to dig in. So it's when to stand back. There's just a lot going on here. And so if you're interested in how all of that stuff kind of works, and we're going to be talking about this from a very operations heavy perspective. So if that interests you, again, that's every other Saturday at 7 Central, and we're going to be discussing this stuff. And please, when you tune in, I know we've had people popping in and out this whole conversation, but for the people that are watching it in the future as well, make sure you interact, even if we're not live and you watch it. let us know what you think. We want your feedback, and also we want to know what questions you have so we can make a potential future episode about it.
Yeah, get into the comments because JJ and I do have a pretty decent amount of experience, but at the same time, just like we talked about in this episode, getting together, in this case, it's the community of people that watch this show. And hey, give us some guidance. What do you want to hear about? And we'll make sure to bake it into the recipe.
Yeah, we might even learn something from you, which is what we hope to do as well. So let's
That's right.
make all of that stuff happen. That's why
Yeah.
we're doing this. We don't actually prefer just to flap our jaws all the time, but we do like to keep ourselves sharp and talk about this stuff because it's relevant and it's not approached in the workforce these days as much as it should be.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Chris, you have any closing comments before we roll out of here?
The only closing comment that I'm going to leave is when you do have to get into the weeds, don't be pissed off about it. That's only going to limit your outcomes. Be positive. Look for the root cause and the outcomes. Go into it with an open mind. It'll help you. It'll help your team, and it'll help it to be sustainable.
Yes, and keep judgment out of it.
Yes.
Look for the actual issue and don't look for the person to blame, because likely you have a part in that. So whoever is, whatever issue is the root cause of any problem at work, if you didn't see it, then you're part of the problem too. So that's the only other consideration that I would like you to keep in mind, but also only dig in if you have to. Empowering your people is the best thing. Delegating is the best thing you can possibly do as a leader.
Yep.
All right. That's the end of the episode. Everyone, thank you so much for always tuning in and checking us out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and as we said, leave a comment below, and we will see you next time.
Have an awesome Saturday.